welcome back. It has been a long time since I updated you with my reading, and so that is what we're going to do today. I am going to tell you everything that I have read since August. Well, I'm not going to tell you November because I'm halfway through that stuff, but I am going to tell you August, September, and October, everything that I read. And then I'll do November and December probably in a separate video because I'm reading for a vlog that won't come out until December. Anyways, I think I'm going to do quarterly wrap-ups next year. Side note. Anyways, okay. I've got to get my camera situated. It feels crooked, and then it's evening time, and so if I sit too far back, I get blinded by the light. Let's go through. I have my Goodreads pulled up because I don't remember, but we're gonna do the best that we can to go through everything. Here we go. So first of all, way back in August, me and Alana read Small Town Horror, and turns out this is like our new favorite horror author. This book in particular was very good. It played with time in a really fun way. In the beginning, when I first read the synopsis, I was like, okay, wait, it sounds like It, but it was nothing like Stephen King's It. Your main character, Andrew Larimer, he's a lawyer, his wife's pregnant, they're kind of settling into their new life when he gets a phone call from a friend and has to go back home. He goes back to his father's house. His father has passed away. He reunites with his friends. Something happened to them. They've got this secret. And so for 20 years, they have not shared this secret. But there's like this situation where they might discover their secret. So there's some things going on, and so he has to go back and make sure that they don't discover their secret. And I don't want to give away too much because I did not see this ending coming until it got there. And then once it gets to that big reveal, you kind of like, you start to suspect it, but then it's like when that twist finally happens at the end, you're just like, oh my gosh, that's wild, that's crazy. I gave this book 5 stars. It was very good. Then I read for my Romancing the Books vlog, and in that vlog I was reading books that were like Romancing the Stone, The Mummy, and Indiana Jones. First up, I read Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I gave this one 4 stars. In this one, your 2 main characters are rival archaeologists that end up on the same dig, and they kind of are like constantly bickering back and forth, but there is like this tension between them. And so then of course they finally give into it, and then, you know, it turns out that the reason that they had a falling out in the past was you know, nothing. If they had just talked about it, it's one of those things. It did not really give Indiana Jones vibes though, so I will say that if you were looking into it for Indiana Jones. All 3 books are very obviously written after the titles of the Indiana Jones movies, the original 3 movies. It did not give those vibes. As a matter of fact, it like compares her to Tomb Raider a bunch. It was good. You should definitely read it if you're into like a contemporary romance that revolves around like archaeology and things like that. This one I did like a little bit better, and it did give a little bit more Indiana Jones vibes, and it was called Digging Dr. Jones. This one you have Dr. Andrew Jones and then Andrea Jones, and a bracelet that was supposed to go to him is accidentally delivered to her, and she puts it on and then it won't come off. And he needs that bracelet because it's supposed to open like a treasure chest basically. And so he is paying her to go with him to try to find this treasure because she has the key on, you know, on her wrist, the bracelet. And so, of course, along the way, they fall in love, and it's really cute. I did give it 4 stars. I felt like it could have been a little bit more like Indiana Jones. Like, there were scenes of them, like, you know, searching through buildings and trying to find like hidden passageways and, you know, that sort of thing. Kind of like finding the catacombs under the library in my all-time favorite Indiana Jones movie. But I felt like it could have used a little bit more of that, a little bit more like puzzles and solving things. So I did, like I said, give it a 4-star. Then I read The Geographer's Map to Romance, and the first book in this series is the book that started this whole concept, because I thought the first book was really comparable to Romancing the Stone. It had like the action adventure, but then also like the rom-com, and just that mixture of it being, you know, cute and funny, but also being kind of like action-packed and like, oh, you know, how are they going to get out of this one, that kind of thing. This one was not as good as the first one. I did give it 4 stars. It was okay. These two characters were already married, but it was a marriage of convenience, and then like one of the reasons that they got married, it like didn't pan out, and so instead of, you know, talking it out or whatever, they just kind of fell apart. So they're estranged. They don't talk to each other. They are both very much neurodivergent. In this moment, I can't remember. I want to say he is like displaying textbook signs of autism, and she is displaying textbook signs of like being very much ADHD. And so like they both do want to be together. They like each other. You know, they, of course, during the course of the book fall in love with each other, but they don't know how to say that. And so it does create some of those like humorous situations like you saw in the first one. But in the first one, you kind of had this thing going on in the background where it was like forces trying to bring these two people together. And then also you had all of the ornithologists trying to go after this one particular bird, and so they were like trying to sabotage each other. They were like, you know, in this like huge like scavenger hunt type deal, you know what I'm saying, like a game show almost going on in the background, where it's like the first person to find this thing gets the prize. And that aspect of it, I think, is what made that a 5-star book for me, and that's really missing from this one. But it was still very good, 4 stars, and I definitely think if you liked the first one, you'll enjoy the second one as well. I also read Romancing Miss Stone in that vlog, and I gave that one 3 stars. In this one, there is a man who proposed to his girlfriend of like 7 years or something like that, and at first she accepted, but then she went on this like archaeological dig for like months or whatever, and then broke up with him over text. And, you know, instead of being, you know, like, wow, that was a really shitty thing to do, I don't want to be with that person anymore, he decides to go to Belize and like talk to her. Like at first he wants to like get her back. Eventually it kind of does morph more into he just wants closure, but at first he wanted to like win her back and like be adventurous and spontaneous, and you know, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy a story where either character is gonna go grovel to somebody that was shitty like that. But besides that, Romancing Miss Stone to me makes it seem like this is gonna have Romancing the Stone vibes, and it just really didn't. Like the female main character is the tour guide that's going to take him out to where this dig is, and of course they get into these situations where, you know, they're stuck in the jungle and all of that together, and they you know, they have all of these experiences, but and they do end up falling in love with each other. The male main character having like the anxiety and the things that he has, for some people that they might enjoy having a male main character that displays those like weaknesses and things like that, but to me, I don't know, it didn't feel like those two characters and personalities should be together, and so it just didn't feel very natural, their romance, to me, I guess. But you know, I did give it 3 stars, so it's kind of a maybe. You might like it. The next book that I read for that vlog was Guarded Treasure, and I gave that one 4 stars as well. This is the one that was supposed to be the most like The Mummy. It was like based off of that. At first, the only thing that really made me think of The Mummy was the way the main characters were dressed. You have your main character, I don't remember their names and I don't have the book with me, so the female main character is an archaeologist, but of course she's a woman in a time where that's, you know, women just didn't do that job. And she and this man are made to work together to find this tomb of some cursed, she wasn't a queen, I think she was the pharaoh's mistress, but anyways, so far anybody that has tried to open her tomb all dies in the same way. And so they get there, they figure out how to open it and everything, and she kind of like has these like flashbacks, and so she kind of knows what to do and what has happened and, you know, all of these things. And so she does end up breaking the curse by the end. And I would say the second half of the book was better than the first half of the book. And it did kind of give you a little bit of a taste of The Mummy, and that's why I did bump it up to 4 stars. As far as the story itself, is probably a 3-star book, but it was pretty good. So if you like The Mummy, that's one to check out. Then the 5-star book of that vlog was Empire of Shadows. I loved this one. In the beginning, the main character has been arrested because she chained herself to the doors of Parliament. It was a women's suffrage demonstration that she was part of, and she chained herself to the doors of Parliament and of course got arrested, and then subsequently got fired. But as she is getting fired and she's supposed to be like cleaning out her desk and everything, she discovers a map, and she does take the map and she goes to find this like hidden city that the map is supposedly leading her to, and she meets the male main character there and convinces him to take her through, you know, the jungle to get there. Meanwhile, there are bad guys chasing them and trying to get the map from her. What I was looking for in that vlog was a book that was like an action adventure but also rom-com, and this gave me those vibes. And I picked it up, started reading, and I never even updated the vlog because I just like read through it like all in one day, just like devoured it. It was so good. I immediately ordered book 2, and book 3 I think just came out, so I will definitely be getting back to that soon after I get through with my end of year vlog plans. But this definitely should read. Add this to your TBR. In between that vlog, because I started that vlog and tried to finish it by the end of August, and that didn't happen. I did end up finishing it in September. And in the in-between time, I read The Raven Cycle. So book 1 and book 2 were on my 25 and 25 bingo, and I did record a vlog, and I never did have time to go back and edit it and put it together into a vlog. But I did read those 2 and mark them off and did not get a bingo when I read them. In this one, your main character Blue has been told her whole life that if she kisses her true love, he'll die. And every year on, I guess, Halloween or something like that, they go to this ley line and they can see the souls of people that are about to die. And she finds the soul of the person that she is supposed to fall in love with. And she normally can't see the souls. Her whole family is psychic, but she's not. She's the only one that is not psychic, but her gift is that she amplifies that for the others. And so she ends up becoming friends with the Raven Boys. They're called that because they go to this particular school, and that's just what they're called when they go to that school. And she becomes friends with Gansey, and he is trying to find a king that was buried on a ley line. He has spent like his whole life so far, like they're teenagers, but he spent like his whole life trying to find this king. And the story goes that if you find him and wake him up, you'll get a wish. And all of his friends have different wishes. They all have these different situations. You have the one who has grown up in this town. He's very poor, but he's going to the private school with all of the rich people, and he wants more. He wants to get out. And then you have the one whose father was just murdered and he is very angry. You know, you have the one friend that is just kind of there in the background. He's very quiet and he has his own secret. But there's all of these dynamics between everybody, and they're all such good friends, and they're trying to find this king, and along the way they're discovering these different like magical things. And I love again what they did with time and time bending back on itself, and them finding things that seem to have been from the future but also from the past. And you know, just finding these magical places, and of course other people are after, you know, the things that they find, and or they're after them, or you know, there's just different situations in each book. And so it was just really good. I missed this series when I went through my like paranormal romance phase back in like the 2000s, and I read like Hush Hush and the other one with the fallen angels. I don't remember it now. I'll pop it up on the screen. But anyways, I went through like those books, and I like just kind of missed out on these. These books did come out a few years after all of that, so I would have moved on to something else probably at that time. But if you liked those, if you read those back in the day and you liked them, try these. Or vice versa, if you have read The Raven Cycle and you liked it, you might want to try one of these other series. Then I read the books for the Magical Readathon, which again I vlogged and just did not have the time to go back and edit, and it didn't make sense to post the vlog way after the readathon anyways. So the books that I read for that, our book club book for September was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It definitely had the vibes that I wanted for a nice cozy fall read. I will be reading on in the series at some point. In this one, your main character Jeannie inherits the Pumpkin Spice Cafe from her aunt, and you know, she moves in, she's kind of getting everything set up, and it's a small town. It, you know, has the Gilmore Girl vibes. The male main character in the story is Logan, and Logan is a farmer. He's very much keep to himself, more grumpy to her sunshine, and you know, of course, there's something about her that he's really drawn to. And meanwhile, there are some things that are going wrong at the cafe. And so she, you know, is trying to figure out, like, who is it that, you know, is pulling these little pranks, and some not so little pranks. But I definitely think you should read this if you like cozy romance. I can't remember what the prompt was. I think it might have been an odd number of letters or prime number of letters in the title, something like that. Kiki's Delivery Service was a translated book. I was originally going to read the first book in the Witcher series, but I decided, just with everything I had going on, I wanted to read something shorter, and I kind of wanted to stay in those kind of like fun, cozy vibes. And Kiki's Delivery Service is a movie I remember from my childhood, and I love it. I love the cozy vibes. When a witch turns 13, she is supposed to go find somewhere to live on her own for a year, and that's like the end, you know, signifies the end of like her training or whatever. And so she finds this little seaside village, and really and truly the only thing she's good at is flying. And so she ends up starting this delivery service because she can fly her broom, you know, to deliver these things. And it's, you know, it just tells about her time becoming part of this town. Witches are not necessarily like discriminated against, but they're also not very well trusted. And so she has to, you know, find her place in this new town. It is slightly different from the movie, but I still really enjoy both of them. So if you've ever watched the movie, you'll really enjoy the book. And then vice versa, if you've read the book, you'll probably enjoy the movie as well. I did give it 5 stars. It was very nostalgic, very cozy, and I think it was a good fall read. Me and the boys were reading the Ichabod as their bedtime story over the course of quite a long time. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was a very good story, but it was a lot more intense than I envisioned it being a children's story. Which, I mean, I guess because of some of the things that happened in Harry Potter, I maybe shouldn't have been super surprised that it goes a little bit more to the dark and realistic side of things. But in this one, the 2 characters that we follow most of the time are 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And the whole story is basically the story of this king who wants everybody to love him. He doesn't really think about other people and consider other people, and because of some of his actions, a series of, you know, bad events ends up unfolding. And then of course he has some friends that are, you know, taking advantage of him and taking advantage of the situation, and it just kind of spirals out of control, and this whole entire kingdom is suffering because of really and truly this one mistake, which led to another mistake, which led to another mistake. And so it definitely has those like fairy tale vibes, and it does have some humorous things. It does have a lot of good things. It's a good story. But if you are reading it with kids, keep in mind that there's a lot of death. It talks about the kids in this orphanage like starving to death because there's not enough food. So it definitely is not a light and fluffy kind of fairy tale. It does get a little bit dark, but overall it is a good story with a happy ending by the end. I also read Sally's Lament that in that same month because I needed to read a book that had a hill, and this one did. So this book is the story of what if Sally is the one that found the door to Christmas Town instead of Jack. And so she finds the door to Christmas Town, she goes, she kind of, you know, meets the people and, you know, has all of the experiences and stuff. She does meet Santa, but it's one of those situations where it's like, do they take their, you know, perfection a little bit too seriously? And she realizes that, you know, on the exterior everybody is like, you know, very giving and very kind and, you know, all of these things, but there's some like dark secret hidden underneath all of that. She does come back with Jack because she barely escaped being arrested the first time, and so then she does come back to try to help her friend. So she will end up figuring out, you know, what is going on in Christmas Town, and she does end up helping them. I gave this one 4 stars. It was good. If you are like me and you love The Nightmare Before Christmas, you're going to enjoy this. It was a very good like Halloween read. But with Christmas coming up, if you are one that you like to watch Nightmare Before Christmas as a Christmas movie, then this might still be a good book for you to read around Christmas time. I also read Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. I again don't remember where this fit into the readathon, or if it did fit into the readathon. I don't remember. But in this one, there is a girl, she might have been like 13 or something. I don't remember. I know she was young, but she is murdered. And Hercule Poirot is called in. One of his friends was there, and she calls him in, and he ends up, you know, solving the case of what happened to this girl. While they were getting ready for the party, she said that she saw a murder committed, and then everybody was like, no you didn't, no you didn't, and then she shows up dead. And so the thing is, either there is, you know, a random killer on the loose, or she actually did see something and somebody knows that she saw it and then got rid of her because she did see something. And so Hercule Poirot does solve the crime. I thought that was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I guessed part of the like reveal, but I didn't guess the entire reveal. So you can read it and see if you can guess the whole reveal. I read The Hex Girls, A Rogue Thorn. This was like my very first spooky season, beginning of October read, and it was such a letdown for me. This follows the story of Thorn, and it is directly after the events of the Scooby and the Witch's Ghost movie, which is my favorite Scooby movie. I love it. The setup and the premise was good. The execution was not. This was a whiny, mad at the world teenager for 246 pages. I am more of a purist as a Scooby-Doo fan. I enjoy the stories where, like, they're kids solving a crime. I don't necessarily feel like anybody needs to be shipped or whatever. So Thorn and Velma like each other in here. They're not necessarily like together, but they've been talking, and Velma is the reason why Thorn moved to Coolsville after the events of the Witch's Ghost. And that part didn't like necessarily bother me, even though I'm, like I said, I'm more of a purist in the fact that like I just want them going around solving, you know, these mysteries and stuff, and I don't really want like relationship drama in my Scooby. But the biggest issue that I had with this is the gang themselves. Shaggy, Scooby, Freddy, Daphne, Velma. None of those characters were true to the character. They all did and said things that were just so out of character for them. And with such established characters and so much lore and so many movies, and even with a range of Scooby, you know, material out there where some things are different. You know, sometimes Fred is like the leader, and sometimes Fred's kind of a little bit of an idiot. Like, you know, there's room for like changing up your characters, but the gang just came across as so flat. And she's arguing with her bandmates Luna and Dusk, and they're kind of all at odds with each other, and the whole thing was just teenage drama, like just the whole thing. If you had like a preteen, they might like this book. Other than the fact that a character actually dies, 2 characters actually die in here. One of them falls off a roof and impales herself on a fence, and the other one is in a car that gets like possessed by a ghost and like drives into a wall and just like a bloody mangled mess. The actual like mystery part, there was kind of like 2 parts to it. There was like a character or a villain that you could unmask, but then there was like that supernatural element, kind of like, we thought we solved it, but there's still something going on here that's more supernatural in origin. That is the only like redeeming trait I think that this book had, because it did mimic Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. Like, they figure out who is behind the Witch's Ghost, and then of course the actual like Witch's Ghost is brought back. This book just sucked, honestly. It was awful, and just probably the biggest letdown of my reading year so far. I think I skipped over this one. This is one that I read when I did the Magical Readathon. I can't remember now if it was an animal on the cover or if I changed it to a different prompt. I don't remember, but I read this one. This is probably my new favorite of the standalones, the like secret projects or whatever. Trust in the Emerald Sea was my favorite. I read that one earlier in the year, but this is probably now my new favorite. And one of the things about Brandon Sanderson is he has talked about his like book universe, the Cosmere, kind of being like the Avengers. So you have like these different things going on that are all kind of interconnected, and the amount of immersion that you have in the Cosmere is up to you. You could just read this book and it just be a good book, and you kind of know, well, if I want to know more about these people, I can go and I can find more about that. Somebody that has read the entire Cosmere up until, you know, this book came out, all of the Easter eggs, it was just so much fun to read. I loved it. This would be a 6-star read for me if I did such a thing, but definitely a 5-star. You should definitely read this one. Then I was in the thick of my spooky season reading. I read What Feasts at Night, which is the second book in the Sworn Soldier series. I read the first one back when I did Summerween. The second one was not as good to me. I gave this 4 stars. I love the writing style. T. Kingfisher is one of my new favorite authors that I've discovered in the last year or so. It wasn't quite at the same level as I felt the first one was. In this one, the main character from the first book, they're going to their family like hunting lodge, and the caretaker, once they get there, they realize that the caretaker has passed away, and it turns out that there were some things going on that led to their death, and some things end up happening that they have to get rid of. So it was pretty good. This is probably my most surprising 5-star of the whole year, I think. I thought this sounded funny. It was interesting. I wanted to figure out what it was about, but I did not expect to love this, and I loved it. So Edie is our main character, and she lives in a version of our world that has been through a zombie apocalypse, right? But the zombies are contained. Unfortunately, there's a breach, and she tries to save her neighbor, but it turns out her neighbor is actually a vampire. And so they end up teaming up to try to go, you know, spread the word that there has been a zombie outbreak, because the sirens and the alarms to tell people that this has happened never go off, and they, you know, they want people to know. The entire time though, the two characters are slowly falling in love, and it's hilarious. My favorite part of this is the fact that his actual first name is Gaston, and she like picks on him so hard about that. I literally tabbed the parts where she's doing the Gaston song. It's hilarious. Okay, and he actually has a YouTube channel where he does like these like fashion and makeup and stuff like that, and nobody realizes that it's him, and she figures it out. And on it was hilarious. The whole thing was just silly and ridiculous and hilarious, but at the end, like, I was in tears. Like, it had me tearing up a little bit. So there should definitely be another book after this one, because they didn't like solve the issue here. They do realize that this is some kind of an inside job, but that was never really resolved in here. So there should be more, and I would definitely love to read more about these characters. Then I read Starling House, which I also gave 5 stars. Arthur is the heir to the Starling house. He's living there, you know, taking care of everything. So the original owner was an author who disappeared, and Opal is like obsessed with this person's one and only book. And so she kind of also is obsessed with the house, and she just really finds herself drawn to it. And so he ends up hiring her to help clean the house and take care of it, but really and truly the house wants her there. And so she just ends up finding out the secrets to the house and figuring out what happened to the author who disappeared, and also figuring out that she herself actually has some ties to the house in a way. So I thought it was a really interesting book. I read this in no time. Then I read Ghost Written, which was 4 novellas, and the first one is called The Skin of Her Teeth, and this lady is waiting on a screenplay from this man, and she doesn't hear from him, and so she ends up going to figure out what's going on, and he, you know, just seems to have had some sort of like mental breakdown. Well, she goes back to the house to get the manuscript because he said that he had written most of the screenplay. And so she got the book and the screenplay. Well, it turns out that the book is like alive. Think like Monster Book of Monsters from Harry Potter. And so then we find out like why that is. And it was okay. I gave that first story 4 stars. I think it would have been a better story to read about the man realizing that there was something up with the book, and the book like trying to get him, you know. I think that would have been a better story. The second story was The Dark Brothers' Last Ride, and I gave that one 5 stars. The two main characters are 2 brothers, and they are given this book to transport to someone, and they're given very specific instructions for how to get there. And as they're going, they realize that there are some weird things going on. Like they stop at like this gas station at one point, and everything is like an off-brand, you know, like it's close to a brand like Budweiser or whatever, but it's like some of the letters might be a little bit different, and there's like no people. It's very strange. And they finally get to where they're going. One of the brothers broke one of the rules, and so there are consequences for that. But it was just very interesting and dealt with like alternate reality kind of things, like parallel universes kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed that one. I gave it 5 stars. The next story was This Book Belongs to Olo, and in this one a boy creates like this pop-up version of his house, and he can alter his actual house through this like pop-up book. And so he invites the like neighborhood kids to his house. He's homeschooled. You end up finding out why by the end, but he's gonna try to keep them in the house to like play with him and be friends with him forever. And I did give that one 5 stars as well. I thought that it was very good, very kind of suspenseful, and you do feel sorry for the kid, but you also kind of are like, he's kind of evil. The last story was just called The Story, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. The main character gets the news that a friend of his died, and so he goes to try to figure out what happened to her. And so she was working on this project, and so he starts kind of going down the same rabbit hole that she went down, and then gets invited to participate in something called The Story. And the way that it works, like it would pop up on his computer like, this happened, what's your choice, what do you do? And you know, if you make the right choice, you move further on in the story, and if you make the wrong choice, you know, something bad will happen. So I gave that one 5 stars as well. So overall, I rated it 5 stars. I loved all of these. I love the fact that they were all based around books and stories, and I really enjoyed that. I also finally finished How to Sell a Haunted House. This is one that I did a soft DNF during Summerween. I finally did go back and finish it. I rated it 3 stars because it just, the whole thing felt odd. Like the pacing was weird, and like I do think it was interesting that the book was broken up into the stages of grief. That part was kind of cool. But okay, the whole thing with like her and her brother and the constant like not getting along, I mean, it explains it, but it was just so weird because they would have like this, you know, near-death experience. They would go through it together, and the girl, the sister, had to do something to the brother, and he was like, yes, just do it, you know, we don't have a choice, just do it. And when she did it and it put him in the hospital with some, you know, severe consequences, he was like, why did you do that? Like, are you serious? And so, basically what happens, their parents were in an accident and they died. And she's going back, you know, to kind of help take care of everything and to clean out the house and everything. And basically it's her and her brother fighting the whole time. It makes it seem like the house is haunted, but the house isn't haunted. There is a certain haunted object in the house, and it is causing other things in the house to come to life and be haunted as well. If you like a haunted doll kind of story, you might like this one. I don't know, I just felt it was weird. It seemed like they got to a point where they destroyed the thing, and then she goes back home, and guess what? Her daughter has the thing. And so then it was like, I don't know, it just felt weird. It felt like you went through a whole book and got to an end point, and then you started over again. Like, I don't know, it felt odd to me. So I gave it 3 stars. I think this was my last spooky read that I actually finished for the year. This was our book club book for October, and it's the one that I picked. I was looking for a Halloween themed cozy mystery, and I don't know if it was because this was written in like 1996 and it's kind of outdated. I don't know if it's because the main character was already married, but her family just seemed very two-dimensional. I don't know. I did not like this. I gave it 2 stars, and I think all of us in our book club gave it 2 stars. She didn't actually solve the case at all. When it got to that kind of end scene where the killer attacks the heroine, and then she has to like escape this situation, like she stumbled into that totally by accident. She like literally is in the car with the murderer, and it still doesn't dawn on her until he's like trying to kill her that he's the murderer. So I didn't really like that part. I don't know, it just the whole thing, it just wasn't for me. Even the town characters were not very likable. Like, her best friend kept making comments about her weight, and she just had a baby. Like, she's got an infant child, and her best friend keeps making comments about her weight. The like old lady type character that it kind of at some points tries to make you think that she did it. She's like driving around when she shouldn't be driving around, and she literally causes an accident that puts a teenager in, you know, like intensive care. Like, they don't know if she's gonna make it, and she's still not really apologetic about it. She's still like, you know, whatever. I don't know, I don't know. It was a 2-star read. I would pass on this one if I was you. Then I read the books for my birthday vlog, and I started with The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I gave this one 5 stars. I said after reading The Raven Boys, which you never saw me say this because I didn't ever post that vlog, but I loved her writing style. It was like poetry. So I enjoy writing that's a little bit more on the prosaic side, a little bit more flowery than some people probably enjoy. The writing was not as poetic as in The Raven Boys or The Raven Cycle, but it was still such an interesting story. And in this one, she wanted to tell the story of like water horses. Leading up to the beginning of November, the water horses will like come up out of the water, and people will try to catch one so that they can ride it in the Scorpio races. So the main character, Puck, is going to be in the race. Her parents have passed away, and her 2 brothers are on their own. And their oldest brother tells them that he's going to be leaving the island. And so at first, she only wants to enter the race to get him to stay for a little while longer. But then it gets to the point where she is going to have to win the race in order for them to keep their house. And then you have your other character, Sean, who has won several times. And he needs to win because he ends up making a deal where if he wins the race, he'll get to keep his horse, because the horse is not his, he just rides the horse. I thought it was an interesting story. The characters were well written, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 stars, so I think that you would probably enjoy this one as well. Then I read Ice Ice Babies, the Ice Planet Barbarians short story, slice of life story, whatever it is. This story follows 2 of the characters from the main series after they mate or whatever. They have twins, Anna and Elsa, as a matter of fact. And, you know, the alien dad is just out there hunting, you know, making sure they have enough food for the cold winter. It's cold all the time, but in the winter months it gets like really cold, because it's an ice planet. And then she thinks that he is like avoiding her, and you know, because he's like never there, and you know, it makes her self-conscious, and they just need to communicate, and they end up doing that, and that's that. So I gave it 3 stars. I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad series. If you like romance, I mean, that's all that it is. It's just, you know, it's not awful, but it's probably not for everybody. I'll just put it that way. Then I read Murder at Cape Costumers, and I gave this one 3 stars as well. It was okay. It didn't do anything, you know, wild and crazy. The main character runs a bicycle shop, I think. Her and her husband, I guess, just recently got married. I guess I will say this one's a little bit better because she does figure it out before the murderer tries to kill her. So that's good. So they have a book club, and the book club tries to solve the murder. I guess it's a murder solving book club. So that was interesting. A costume store like opened up in town, and there's a guy that comes into the bike shop and like buys, you know, like a bicycle or something, whatever, and says that he's friends with one of the owners. Well, he's the one that ends up dying, and so her and her book club figure out who murdered him. At the same time, her husband's sister, who I think is like a struggling alcoholic, she comes with her 2 kids and ends up going missing. And so in the background, they're also trying to figure out where she is, what happened to her, you know, that sort of thing. As far as like the 2 endings, I did figure out who did it, and I did figure out what happened, or guess what happened to the sister. So, you know, I guess maybe you could say it's a little bit predictable. But it was still a decent read if you like a cozy mystery. Then I read The Cruel Prince. We meet Jude, who, her parents were murdered, and like at the very beginning of the book, by this fae dude. And he takes her and her sisters to go live in the fae world with him. And so she has grown up surrounded by fae, and she wants to be like the fae. And so she trains, and she wants to be like a knight. I can't remember. I think she wants to like train to be a knight or something like that. She ends up uncovering a certain secret that ends up putting her in league with her biggest rival, which is Prince Carden, who like just despises her, and they kind of end up having to team up a little bit. So you feel sorry for her because, you know, she's being bullied, you know, by these people. And I mean, it's the fae, so they're not just like mean to her. Like sometimes they're doing things that could actually kill her. But it was good. I gave it 4 stars. I don't really like where it was going with her character, and kind of like turning her into this like ruthless person, you know, that totally abandons her morals. So I did end up giving it 4 stars, but I will be continuing in the series. The main character, Anya, deals with poisons. When she was a little girl, she had a cousin that ate a poisonous plant and just died. And that was really influential to her, and she wanted to find out, like, why is there no antidote to this? And so like she made that her, you know, life mission. She's trying to figure out antidotes to poisons. Well, one day the king shows up and tells her that his daughter has been poisoned. Like there's something wrong with her. She's just wasting away. And so she goes with the king to figure out what is happening to the princess. And she does figure it out. As with all of her fairy tale retellings, this one is a Snow White retelling. It takes the elements of that fairy tale and just presents it in a totally new and unique way. So it combines the elements of the stepmother, the magic mirror, the poison apple, all of those things. It takes those and takes it in a whole different direction. This does have to do with like mirrors and mirror worlds. I think so far this is my favorite T. Kingfisher. I love how she did the whole aspect of the mirror world and that sort of thing, and how reflections can come to life in a way. How she dealt with that whole entire thing. I love that. And I also love how her protagonists often are older women. Not that this character is old. I think she's in her 30s. I also love how she has her older female main characters still have romance. Like in A Sorceress Comes to Call, the old spinster lady, and you know, she has a love interest. And in this one you have Anya, who's, like I said, like mid-30s, and she has a love interest, and she does it so subtly and so well. Like I said, she has become one of my favorite authors. I read the novella No Kiss November. I gave it 4 stars. It was good. It was kind of funny. There was this character who thinks that her family is cursed, and so like if she falls in love with somebody, she thinks that they're like gonna die or something horrible is gonna happen. And she ends up falling in love with the mayor of her hometown. Turns out that his ancestor is the one that supposedly cursed her family. And so it was cute. It's a novella, short. And then my last book for that vlog was a book recommendation from my friend Alana, and she recommended the bookshop on the corner, and I gave this one 4 stars. Your main character, she is a librarian, and her job is going away. They're kind of consolidating, and this new library is going to be more about, you know, having a place to access the internet, you know, job resources, like that sort of thing, more so than actually just going to the library. It's gonna kind of, I guess, be more like a job center kind of thing. But anyways, she goes to this training because she is still gonna try to, you know, get this job. So she goes to the training, and the guy makes her think, like, what is your dream? What's your goal? What would you do if you could do anything? And she would like to have a bookshop. So she decides to buy like a van thing to build like a library in the back of. And so she does, and she goes to get it, and then gets denied a parking permit to keep it at her apartment where she lives. So then she ends up having to move to this town where she bought the van from, and she rents a cabin, of course, from a guy, and she ends up falling in love with this guy. And it was cute. It was a cute little romance story. That is it. That's everything that I have read since August, except for what I read in November. I still need to do a fall book haul video, and I need to do a catching up on my reading journal video. So I will be doing those. I was gonna do my book haul and my wrap up in one video, but it was gonna be way too long, so I am gonna split that up. I don't plan on buying a whole bunch of books for December, so I don't know. I guess I could wait and do like an September, October, November, and December book haul, or I guess I could do a fall book haul and then I'll do a winter book haul, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, other than that, I do have my 2026 reading journal. I just need to figure out how I'm going to do my setup, and then I'll do my setup video and all of that. And then I've got an idea for a TBR game that I would like to do next year. So once I get all of that figured out, I will do a 2026 reading journal setup video. So that is it for this one. I will see you in one of those other videos soon. Bye guys.